All right, good evening. At this time, I'll call to order the Solano Community College District Governing Board meeting of November 20th, 2024. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
President Honeychurch,
Here.
Trustee Cargo Reed. Here. Trustee Kara. Here. Trustee Lopez Laura.
Here.
Trustee Thurston. Here. Trustee Young. Trustee Voice. Student Trustee Shreya Srinivasan. And I'm here.
Brings us to number 4 on the agenda, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I gather there's no request to speak from members of the public? No. So at this time, we'll move into closed session and resume the regular meeting at 7 o'clock. We'll reconvene the regular meeting and report of action in closed session. There was no action taken in closed session. Are there requests to speak from the public? So we'll move on to reports, the first of which is Associated Students. Good evening.
Yeah, so good evening, board members. I do believe that we were supposed to have an ASSC representative come tonight, so I'm going to hold off on the report, and if it's all right, push it back to the back in case they do show up, and then if not, then I can give a report at the end.
All right, that'd be fine.
Awesome, thank you.
Next is Academic Senate report. Joshua Scott is here with us.
Yes, good evening. The main thing, I think there's several things I wanted to update you on. Sarah Barsness, who's our curriculum chair, and I went to plenary about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, right? This is the twice a year gathering of Academic Senate statewide. Lots of big and important issues coming up, a lot around common course numbering. I think I've talked about this with you some before. Big logistical moves in service of a goal which we think really will benefit students, right? Having a common course number, whether you go to Napa or Solano or wherever else. But it's really become difficult as we're also looking at making sure we have, common outcomes and descriptions and even sometimes conversations around, what textbooks we're recommending, right? And so there's become a tension with how do we make sure that from a student perspective our courses make sense and are coherent, but that we also have always really valued at this school and I think all around the state, local decisions around curriculum that's really going to best meet the needs of our students. And so that's something that we've talked about. Of course, AI is coming up a lot and something that came up at plenary again as we're continuing to think about both how to make sure we're supporting students, that we're engaging in it responsibly, and that we're also of course, in many areas, in many disciplines, people are very worried about AI sabotaging the learning process or people cutting corners in ways that might not really set them up for long-term success. Also, dual enrollment. I've talked about this before as well, Vision 2030, right? This idea that all high school students would ideally at least have had the opportunity by the conclusion of their senior year of high school and completing 12 units of community college credit. This is something we've been talking about quite a bit here at our college as well. We currently have a task force to really look at making recommendations, and that's made up of both faculty appointed by the Academic Senate as well as a few academic deans, and they'll be coming back to us in a few months with some recommendations, thinking a lot about professional development, certain areas where we should really be bringing our focus. The big vision for dual enrollment has really been trying to target students who might be first generation or in other ways have been not really seeing college as sort of like a pathway for them, but in reality, sometimes it's been students who may not be in that demographic. They may be students who are part of IB or honors programs, other programs which are already really serving students in high schools, and so we want to be intentional about how we do that. One exciting thing that we've done here just in our last Senate meeting is we invited both the principal and several faculty from the early college high school program to our Senate meeting, and we were able to talk a lot about just really what wonderful students we have in the early college program, their level of like kind of the work ethic and the curiosity and the drive and just the really unique and fun personalities of the students. And really, again, though, talking about as faculty, how can we make sure that we have the professional development? We have not necessarily had the sorts of training to really think about how to be working with people who might be between 14, 15, and 17 or 18. There's always been this population in our schools, but we sometimes have almost even pretended that wasn't there, kind of looked around the sides. And right now, statewide, I think it's almost 1 out of 3 community college students are dual enrolled students. So that's a pretty significant portion. And I believe at our school, it's not quite that, but it's 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5, something like this. Yeah, good conversations, and a lot of what came out of the early college, high school conversation was just we need to have more conversations. We need to get to know each other better, really be collaborating, talking, sharing resources, thinking how to work there. Another issue that has come up recently that I really wanted to bring to you is back in 2016 in December, the Academic Senate passed a resolution in support of this college being a sanctuary campus. This was also something that was discussed at the time in administration and by the board. Our understanding is that it's something that at that point we didn't move forward with fully. We, especially during the times we're living in right now, have really seen it as a priority that we want to make sure everybody in our community really feels they belong, they're safe, we want them here. And so we passed, again, a resolution back in 2016 naming this, but we're just asking you as a board to seriously consider or to discuss in ways that feel appropriate the adopting a sanctuary campus designation here and making sure that's something that our students know, because there is quite a bit of anxiety at this moment about making sure that people feel safe coming here, enrolling in here, engaging in the types of services and support that we know are in their benefit. And if we could say something to them, that would be something I think that'd be beneficial. And finally, we are currently in process, as I believe you know, in hiring 11 new full-time faculty members, and that's been something that's been very exciting as we're working towards building hiring committees, making sure students are on those hiring committees, and getting faculty who are going to be able to meet needs across campus. And really grateful for you and for administration and the faculty who have all worked together to make this happen. That concludes my update.
All right, thanks, Professor Scott. Are there questions?
Yeah, so I just first wanted to talk about the early college aspect of it
Yes.
and about your guys' counseling together. I talked to both the teachers who went to that meeting. That is Miss Latruse and Miss Nance, both who I've had the pleasure of being their students currently and in the past. And they both really thoroughly enjoy going to that meeting and
Good.
getting to speak with all the professors. I think this is now the 10th year that ECHS has been, sorry, microphone is acting up. 10th year that ECHS has been at Solano Community College, and so for us to start having these conversations more actively is just a pleasure to see. Yesterday, just for you guys to know, they had the parent night for all the ECHS students, and I was speaking in terms of as ECHS and as an SEC member, as kind of a liaison, but I would love to have SEC be more active in those aspects too, just so that there's more of that transparency and communication. So I love this is the first start, and I can't wait to see more is my comment for now.
All right, thank you. So any,
But I think, did you have a question? No, I'm sorry, Amanda, I thought you
Oh,
had.
no, I was trying to point, let Dennis know that.
I do have a question.
go ahead.
Early college again.
Yes.
I thought you said, and please clarify, 1 and 2 across California, but we're 1 and 4.
No,
Can
it's
you clarify that?
so this is for dual enrollment. So remember, there's like 3 different ways we as a college can engage in dual enrollment. Students can come here from their any school in the area and participate in, or we can do something like an early college, and we can also hire and put teachers into local high schools. So with those 3 models, if you're looking at statewide, roughly 1 out of 3 community college students is also currently a high school student. At our school, I think it's 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5. Nathan Rexford ran these numbers for us. I don't know if you know those, David.
I believe it's 18% of our students are dual
18%.
enrollment, about 1 in 5.
Okay. After you said that, what I thought, because I've had kids that went to high school and they ended up going to Napa rather than Vallejo for numerous reasons. But if I had known about Fairfield and here, I'm just wondering if down the road when we can, it would really be nice to actually have a study session explaining to the parents that are listening at home what are their criteria. Like if you're in Napa High School, in Vallejo High School right now, can you decide to apply for next year? I mean, I have no idea. And if I don't have any idea, then likely other parents don't.
I think that's a great idea and could be a really nice outcome of even this task force meeting is once we've really come as a conclusion together to what really is the best avenue to pursue to then really present that both here and communally. Yeah, that's a good idea.
And recently, we had several high schools from Vallejo visit, and when they visit, we also highlight the dual enrollment, and so students are being made aware at the moment. So they are learning, and we're sharing with parent groups as well, so they are trying to enhance the way that we outreach to incoming first-year freshmen as well as concurrently enrolled high school students.
And maybe church groups and that, you know. The other question I had is sanctuary campus. Explain to me if I've got it right. Sanctuary campus basically says that while you're on campus, it's impossible for ICE to come and.
Well, I don't think, I mean, I could let others speak to this. I don't think we can say someone can't come onto campus, but we can say that our policy is such that we do not share, say, private data with agencies that might ask for it, and that we are in other ways making sure that students who, because the thing is, right, when students want to come here, to even go through the application process, you have to share a lot of very personal information, both about your income, but of course also about your status in other ways too. And we're saying that we're not going to share that if it's asked in ways that violate the student confidentiality.
So my question after that is, as we're not a sanctuary campus, do we share information now, or is it likely that we would be sharing information?
I'll defer to administration to answer that, but I don't.
We can share information when there's a public request. There are certain laws that require us to share information, for instance, like military students and things like that. So what a sanctuary campus would do is we wouldn't be able to share that information unless there was a warrant. So it just makes it more difficult for people to come on unannounced and, round students up and things like that.
So we're really saying we need a warrant. Whereas
Yes.
right now, we don't need a warrant.
Part of what it is as well is information, both for staff and faculty and students to know their rights and what sort of a due process might look like. Because the concern is that someone shows up and is like, I'm looking for so-and-so, and then as a teacher, like, I'm intimidated, I'm like, oh, there they are, and here's what, or, I want to see all the records, and making sure that, so doing this is a process, and a lot of this wouldn't be unique to Solano College. This is something, if you remember back in 2016-17, Gavin Newsom at the time established statewide, so we wouldn't be alone in this. But it's just saying that we really are both declaring it officially and also engaging in a certain amount of professional development for all employees on campus so that we understand how to engage in a situation that so far, to best of my understanding, has been hypothetical.
It's,
I'll use my loud voice. So it's
no, I think it is important. It's my understanding that mainly it would be if there's criminal activity going on, violent, predatory behaviors, things of that nature. Outside of that, like you said, nothing like that has happened at this campus, correct?
Correct, and if anything was violent or violating any sort of legal, like whether, criminal violence behavior, that's something separate than this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And thank you for the clarification.
All right, thanks. Well, is your student? Okay, so this time we'll ask again for the Associated Students report. I understand the student representative is present now. Come on up. Welcome.
Hello, my name is AJ Matthews. I'm the legislative advocate for the Associated Students of Solano. I've been serving for this semester, and I was the public relations officer in spring. So today I would like to speak with you all about the Civic and Voter Empowerment Action Plan, which is a plan that I began working on in the summer and have completed in the August of this year. And since completing, we have accomplished 3 civic engagements events on campus, one of which was Give Me Liberty or Give Me Pizza, which was a voter registration drive, which we hosted in partnership with the League of Women Voters. That day we had about 15 students register to vote. However, they did not indicate on the Secretary of State's website that they attended our school, so it didn't count for the ballot bowl, which was a competition between all community colleges, and private institutions, as well as universities in the state. To give a little bit of background as to why I was writing the Civic and Voter Empowerment Action Plan, there is a bill called the Student Civic Empowerment Act, called AB 963, which requires all college campuses to write a Civic and Voter Empowerment Action Plan and assign a Civic and Voter Empowerment Coordinator, which is Denise Martinez. And I worked with her to draft the plan, as well as professors like Professor Scott and Professor Purdy and Professor Christopher Summers, who helped edit the plan and give us more structure. We also worked with the entire ASSC to gain more student representation. As a part of the Civic and Voter Empowerment Action Plan, we put together the Falcon Task Force, which is essentially a voting coalition sort of situation. We didn't name it that, but that's what we would like it to evolve into. But as a part of the Falcon Task Force, we gather together each month and we talk about what civic engagement on campus looks like and what we want it to look like. So far, we have discussed what events we want to hold, but we also talk about the legislative specifics in regard to AB 963 and what are the specific requirements. Some of those requirements include civic voting registration dates on the physical and virtual academic calendars. Another one of which is a minimum 3 election outreach events that discuss civic learning, voter registration, and democratic participation. And another one is a campus-specific effort to increase civic learning. So that may look like curriculum, or that may look like specific events that happen annually that students can rely on and know this is their opportunity to maybe meet their local representatives or learn different information that they don't have access to in regular everyday classes. So things like, where is my polling place? Where is my district representative? Things such as that nature. And so when we first submitted our Civic and Voter Empowerment Plan, we received a 70%. So it was like a 26 out of 26. You could get 26 points. And in 2 areas we got developing, which was 0 to 6. And that was in landscape and reflection. So our landscape was limited, and the way that we reported that was what we wanted to do, but we didn't say what was done in the past. And with reflection, we were meant to evaluate how the events panned out. So the Give Me Liberty or Give Me Pizza, the Rock the Vote, the Can Justice Be Bought debate, and the Latinas with Masters live podcast, hosted with Christina Rodriguez, the Basic Needs Coordinator. We were allowed to do a resubmission in which we did fulfill the requirements and talked about the landscape and what was done before, and the reflection where we evaluated how each of these events panned out, and we ended up getting a 26 out of 26 for our score. So the second time the Students Votes Project liked what we did. Thank you. So that's all that I wanted to let you know about the Civic and Voter Empowerment Plan. Do you have any questions for me?
Thanks very much.
I have a
Oh,
question.
you do have a question.
And going forward, I know we have to wait another 4 years, but maybe not another 4 years. What's our plan?
Our plan going forward is to work with the County Registrar of Voters, who we've invited to the school before for an inspection of the 400 building to see if they would consider allowing us to host a ballot box for the recent election. What we learned the specific requirements that are entailed in having that box here. And we are working with DPS and different departments on campus to figure out what we're able to do. And we will invite them again for an inspection before the upcoming congressional elections and to see if they would be willing to allow us to host that ballot box here, because we know that would definitely increase student awareness of the election. So
I'm curious why we went for a ballot box and not to become a voter precinct?
polling
Thank you.
place. The issue with there were several issues with a polling place, one of which being that there's a polling place very nearby at the Solano County Office of Education. And what we learned from the County Registrar of Voters is that people don't like to switch up where they vote. So a lot of people are very committed and have a bond, I guess, with the SCOE building, and they would rather just continue to go there rather than coming to our school. So what we learned might be the most effective for students is, oh, I'm going to the financial aid office, I'm going to counseling, I'm going to class, I can just come to 400 and drop off my ballot, especially if you've waited to the last minute to vote. The other option that we do have is to be a curbside voting location. So that would only require us to put up a tent and provide parking spaces for the poll workers so that they could get to their places easily and not have to worry about parking permits or a ticket.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Just the last thing that I wanted to let you all know that we're doing in ASSC is we're going to do finals week prep for students. We're going to invite faculty the week before finals to tutor students in the ASTC, and we have flyers here with the specifics. Yes. Yeah. I just wanted to let you know what it looks like. And then we're also going to have, during finals week, we have the extended library hours where they're going to serve snacks such as boba, Mediterranean food, popcorn, coffee, tea, things such as that, to allow students to have a break as they try to gain all the knowledge they can get before they take their final test.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
Thanks for your report and all your work.
Yes, of course.
Yes, thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
And I just wanted to say, what a wonderful idea. I really like this. Turned out really nice. Maybe I don't know if I can come get some, but
You're more than
this-
welcome to come, please.
I
come.
love it. That's a very, it's a good way to encourage the students and make sure they can focus on the finals. So I like it.
Thank you. There's also an ugly sweater contest. If you're interested.
All right, thanks again.
Thank you. VP.
And just to add, sorry, also, in addition to the considerations of a ballot box here, we have been, the ATEC Center has been a polling place for a number of years, which is great in terms of the college, playing a very important role in terms of civic engagement and being a great polling place. So, and that's my polling place. So, just want to add that.
All right, thank you. Now thanks a lot. This time we'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the College Governance Council report and the superintendent's report.
Thank
Presented
you.
by Dr. Kelly Butler.
Thank you. The College Governance Committee has met twice since the last report, so I will share what we've covered in the last two meetings. On October 23rd, the Phi Theta Kappa students attended the meeting and shared a presentation similar to the one that they shared here for the board for their PTK Honors in Action, where the rising scholars who are currently incarcerated students were able to attend virtually via Zoom and share their literary pieces. And I wasn't able to attend, but I heard it was a very well-attended event, and so I'm really excited for our students. Also, PTK has an upcoming event this Friday. I believe there still may be spaces for the opioid overdose and prevention training that will be here on Fairfield campus in the cafeteria. Also, VP Corneliuson provided a presentation on Administrative Procedure 3910.1. It was the first reading. This is a third-party risk management standard that he shared at our meeting in compliance with the Graham-Leach-Bliley Act, GLBA, which requires Solano and other colleges to implement safeguards that protect students and employees' privacy and security data. And so that will be added to our administrative procedures. On November 13th, we had the second reading of the 3910.1 procedures, and so that was voted on. BP Wheat shared the first quarter budget update, which she will be sharing later in this meeting. Chief Travis shared safety shades that the Department of Public Safety requested for purchase for classrooms for the windows of the doors that don't fully close, and for office doors in the event of an active shooter, the shades would be pulled to allow more safety and privacy, to limit the ability of someone to be able to see in. And VP Williams also presented a board policy 1077, participation in local decision making, asking that the college governance recommend deletion of this policy because it's duplicative of BP 2005, which is on this board agenda for approval. And the college governance did recommend that we delete 1077 in hopes of just keeping one board policy related to participatory governance. And that's all of the college governance. Any questions?
Could you repeat the opioid Friday class and what time it is? I'm registered, but I'm
It is November 22nd, 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. It's in the back of the cafeteria.
10:30.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. For superintendent updates, just writing on some of the updates that Josh shared. Post-election, the college has been sharing messages of care and support and creating spaces for students who may be experiencing some uncertainty or anxiety under the new administration. So we have really been just trying to send messages highlighting the college's mission, focusing on Solano's vibrant learning community, fostering a culture of community, collaboration, and inclusion, and really highlighting we want to be a place where all students can learn and complete their educational goals. We also had a Veterans Appreciation Lunch in the Veterans Center, celebrating our veterans and thanking them for their service. It was really good barbecue. And on November 5th through the 8th, it was Bioreactor Run Week. And I don't know if you all have attended, but I'm going to invite you next year because I didn't get to go this year. But it's a 24-hour process similar to what the students would experience if they actually worked in a biomanufacturing plant. And the students take shifts and they go all night. And it really helps them to kind of get a feeling of what it's like to be in the career. And then I believe we had a basic needs fair in Vallejo that was very successful with lots of community members coming in to share resources. And the Times Herald actually did an online article. And lastly, Solano hosted the first ever convening at the California Medical Facility. And we basically had the support from Dean Zitko for our Rising Scholar and SOAR program, and Director Danley, who organized the event. And we had the California Community College Chancellor's Office, as well as other Rising Scholar community colleges present, UC Davis's Underground Scholars, and then Sacramento State Project Rebound was also present. And it was a really well-attended event. The students did a panel, and the faculty also shared a panel of what it was like to teach in the facility and to be able to be a resource for the students. Any questions?
I just have a quick comment to make about two things. One about the post-election, just students' engagement reaction. They really appreciated Dr. Butler's note, just to bring back that kind of like community aspect of it again, and it really alleviated the stress of many students. And so I love to see more of those. I know Brave Spaces are a great way to continue that efforts. If you don't know, Brave Spaces are just, they're themed differently each month, but they're going to be spaces where students can come and discuss different topics like reproductive health, LGBTQ plus issues. So very thankful to see the college do that. The second thing about the Basic Needs Fair in Vallejo, I was there with ASSC and with the Reproductive Health Club, and it was my first time going to the Vallejo campus, and it was just really nice to see the community there and that we are outreaching to that campus as well, to the sister campus. So I was really appreciative, and we did get a lot of engagement. So just wanted to make those additional comments.
All right, thank you. So this time we'll move to the consent agenda. It's item 11. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by the board in one motion. There's no discussion on these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be discussed and or removed. Time will be provided before the vote for clarification. Questions without removing an item from the consent agenda. So with that said, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Is there a second? So it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carried. There are no items removed. We're on to item 13 on your written agenda. Action items, first of which is presented by our Superintendent President, Kelly Butler, approval of revisions to Board Policy 2005, participation in local decision-making.
Yes, this is the approval of the Board Policy 2005, which was brought for first reading last meeting. As you recall, this is a total rewrite of the board policy, aligning the language with the Community College League of California's language. In addition to the league's language, the college has incorporated information regarding the campus stakeholders, including the academic senate, the staff, and the students. And it also includes academic senate's role regarding the 10+1 academic and professional matters. And we will have a study session on the 10+1 and participatory governance early in 2025. But right now, I'm just asking you to approve this revision to Board Policy 2005, participation in local decision-making.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve this?
I second the motion.
All right, moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next is a bond presentation. Lucky Lofton's the presenter. It's a contract amendment number 1 to HMR Architects for the Vallejo Center Security Study Project. So,
In honor of our fellow trustee who's feeling under the weather, pun intended, can I propose that we, if you would indulge us, VP Lofton, to speak on items B through K, and then we can vote on all matters.
is that a motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to.
Second the motion.
So is Mr. Lofton available?
Thank you, President
Good evening.
Honeychurch. Good evening, members of the board. You'll note that 5 of the items are contract extensions. They are no cost. This has to do with, again, project delays related to just a number of issues facing construction projects in today's world. Obtaining materials and such is just delaying a lot of our projects. I've provided the board reports on other items related to change orders. If you have any specific questions, happy to address those. The one item H, is not a bond project. That is a strong workforce funds project, but it is a remodel project for the camp.
So are there any questions on any of these items? Go ahead.
I was wondering if you could go to 13J. I wanted to know if you could clarify and where it says, once all work is completed and costs are reconciled, a deductive or addictive change order will be issued. Can you explain that to me, please?
So I'm referencing the specific line.
Yeah, it's under, oh, that's a good point.
Is it 52?
Is this, I couldn't see.
I think 53.
Oh, 53, yes it is. I took it to mean that the maximum we're approving was 565,000, and if the job came in at 300,000, we'd get 200,000 back.
So what you're looking at on page 53, and I know pagination sometimes is a little bit unique. It's part of a proposal for the change order from Matrix. So their proposal, well, the work is complete. The proposal has been evaluated, and all of the costs have been accounted for. So there are no further costs related to this specific change order. You would be approving a complete change order.
Okay. No, but I think, okay, I don't know what to say.
I think for clarity, Trustee Kara is asking if the cost of the change order could potentially come in less than 500,000, or if the estimate is stating that the cost of the requested work will be at the quoted price.
The quoted price for, I will have to respond to that specifically with more research, because I'm not sure I'm fully understanding the question. I apologize. What I can say is, in the process, the issues that were uncovered were prices were quoted to the district, negotiations occurred, work was completed, and a very thorough process of vetting all of the time accounted for this particular project because of its nature as an emergency. We had to proceed immediately to get that work done. So we account for all of the time that's done. We check all of the timesheets. We account for all of the laborers on site. And all of that process has occurred. And what you're seeing is there's a lot of work that goes into the back and forth of negotiating these change orders and getting the work done. So rough orders of magnitude are proposed. A certain amount of this work is authorized to occur such that it doesn't exceed those rough orders of magnitude. The work occurs. We track all of the labor, all of the hours. We account for that. Then we bring it all back together to ensure that we only pay for the work that actually happened, and that there isn't some balloon of a proposal that is proposed that the district is paying for work that doesn't get done. So our project managers monitor all of that work that happens day in and day out. And so what you're seeing in all of this paperwork is elements of the process of getting emergency work done. So the contractor wants to protect himself, doesn't want to do work that he's not going to get paid for. So he wants to have limits authorized. At the same time, the district doesn't want to pay for work that isn't done or for proposals that are inflated. So in the nature of this particular problem, which was an emergency that had shut all of the heating down to the campus, there is this back and forth that occurs where both sides are working to protect themselves, and a great deal of effort goes into that process. And I think that's what you're reading is some of the contractors' presentation of how they're protecting their position. And you'll see, I mean, if we went through all of the records, you would see all the timesheets, you would see all of the daily reports, everything that validates that the work that was necessary to be done was completed, and that we know who worked the job, how many hours worked, and that we're being billed appropriately, and not just some lump sum price that may or may not may or may not be inflated. So we're actually paying for actual work, if that helps.
Thank you. Are there other questions?
I appreciate you clarifying on that because, for the public, that way they can see we're asking questions. I appreciate the transparency and explanations. And once again, the public can always go to our website and be able to find the same information. So thank you so much for that explanation.
Thank you. So, Mr. Loughlin, it sounds like as though this work has already been done or committed by us to be done before this change order got to the board. Is that correct?
That's more or less that's the nature of change orders in process. So many times a construction project is moving, months ahead of our board agenda. And this is how the process works on all of our construction projects. We work through a process of approving work to proceed such that we don't delay the projects, and we bring those change orders to the board for approval. And there is, some element of risk for the contractor to proceed because we cannot pay the contractor without the board's approval. But we have a very robust construction management team, project management team, program management team, and district personnel who are vetting every step of the process to ensure that only the essential work gets done. If there is a situation where the district, there's some request that comes through from the district for something that would be quote unquote nice to have. Those are the kinds of things that we bring for approval before we move forward with them. The projects are approved, and when essential work, like in this particular case, we had the hot water distribution system had failed, and we were no longer able to deliver hot water to the building. It takes, depending on where we are in the agenda cycle for the board, it could easily take a month before we could get something to the board. In the meantime, work would cease. The district would face potential delay charges for work that doesn't proceed in a timely fashion. That's for general conditions for the contractor who's sitting there waiting for approval to move forward. So this is a normal part of all of the construction projects that we've had here since here on campus, especially since I've been here.
Right. Thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead. I'm done.
Okay. I was just saying, I was going to add one last thing, that my understanding of this project, VP Lofton, for the rest of the public hearing, thank you, Amber, for that reminder, is that this was one of those remodels where you tore open the wall and it was a much bigger problem than anticipated. So I see that a future project will address the hydronic system as a whole. Do we have an estimated timeline for that? Because it's a little scary once you find a bigger problem underneath.
We currently are working with an engineer to propose a study to study the entire system. We expect to bring that to the board. I was just having this meeting 2 days ago. Let's see, this is November. So that would come to the second board meeting in December. I think we're working very hard to try to get it to the first meeting in December, but I think we won't have that proposal fleshed out in time. So the board should be approving a study, an engineering study of our hydronic system. We've already conducted some of that study. We already know what some of those problems are. The first distribution system that the campus had installed back in 1969, 1970 lasted for 35 years. This system is not 20 years old yet. It started to show signs of significant failure over the past 2 to 3 years. And it's what, 18 years old since 2005, 2006. So we've already conducted some studies. We know that there are some failures in how it was installed. The study will go further to identify the things that we have to fix in order to have the system last its full length of life. So repairs will be made once the study is completed. Engineering will be completed to design the project, which would go out to bid sometime in mid next year. And the repairs would hopefully start to be conducted mid to late next year.
Thank you. So at this time, I'll ask if the board will approve the various change orders up to and including item K. So there's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to item L, which is a contract renewal for child development services. This is presented by Vice President Lisa Neely.
Good evening. Thank you, President Honeychurch, and good evening, members of the board. So the Early Learning Center, the college enters into several state and federal contracts each year in terms of funding for the Early Learning Center, and many of them are kind of on a rolling basis, which is called a continued funding request. So this is one of those, which is related to the California Department of Social Services, and this enables us to provide certain subsidies to the families that we serve, particularly children for the infant and toddler program. So this would serve about 24 to 36 children in that program. And so we're asking the board to approve this continued funding request for the 25-26 year. Please.
I'll make a motion
Thank
to
you.
approve.
Is there a second? It's for the children.
Infants and toddlers.
All right, so moved and seconded. Any questions? You do not disappoint.
I don't disappoint, sorry. Wonderful. 36 children is a really small amount. We have a lot of campuses. Just wanted to say, maybe one day we can enlarge our scope.
Yes, and that's not the limit. It's just a certain chunk of children in that particular age group that this particular grant is serving. So we have a number of different grants, both state and federal, that support. I think in full capacity we have, over 100 children are served in the program. And yes, one day it would be wonderful to be able to think about ways that we could expand and maybe increase services. But it's a really successful program, and it's interesting to see too, just by noting for those who were able to attend the recent opening, that we had former students who had actually been children served by the program who are now coming back as specialists and teachers, which is really wonderful to see.
And members of the board have had their kids there too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
we
And
know the
faculty and
statistics are
staff.
that people stay in college if they have their children looked
Absolutely.
after on college campuses.
Absolutely.
And even though Fairfield is terrific, but there's also Vallejo, Vacaville,
Yes, yes.
one
And
day. That's all I needed to say.
oh no,
Thank you.
absolutely appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
Appreciate that. And we work within the constraints because in some cases there are federal and state regulations that regulate how we can serve, who we can serve, et cetera. So we really are a community service, which is great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the contract renewal for child development services. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is information items presented by Vice President Susan Wheat. It's a budget update and financial report.
Yes, thank you, President Honeychurch, members of the board. I'm going to, I know it's in the packet, but I'm going to share the screen so that it's up and we can kind of go through it together, and that way it's with everybody who's on our Zoom call as well. So first page is simply the table of contents. So that one's an easy one to get through. And then we have our summary of some of the changes that we have, and I'll go through that as we look at the actual numbers with it. So this is for our unrestricted fund. We have our adopted budget that we approved in September, and then the first quarter budget update as of the end of September. So one was for the whole year, and then we have an update as we have moved through the first 3 months of this fiscal year.
Sorry, Susan, can you repeat what page number you're on? So all
In the board packet is on page 90 is what's on the screen. I'll make that bigger because I know that's hard to see too.
Thank you.
But we are on page 90 in the board packet. With our unrestricted fund or our general budget, slight changes to the revenue based on fluctuations from the state, from our FTES and our allocations. That will continue to fluctuate throughout the year as more as we do our certifications and do our reporting to the chancellor's office. Not too much difference, about a $2,000 difference overall, which I am happy to see that there hasn't been big fluctuations from the state. When we look at the expenditures, not too much different between the adopted budget to the budget at the end of the first quarter. Again, about a $3,000 difference. There's been some slight changes between the different categories of expenditures, but overall, our overall expenditure remains about the same. Our actual net fund balance decrease is remaining exactly the same from our adopted budget. If we go to the next page, this is for still for the unrestricted budget, still for the general fund. This is our composition of that ending fund balance. The biggest change that you will see here is that beginning fund balance from our adopted budget to the end of the first quarter. It did increase by almost $4 million. When I did the budget presentation, at that time I informed you that our estimates for the year end were probably going to come in a lot less than what we anticipated. I knew that our deficit spend that we were anticipating at that time were going to come in less. They did. Our deficit spend for last year was about $1.6 million, keeping in mind that we spent $3.5 million in one-time only funds last year. So it was actually a net increase if you take those one-time only funds out. So that beginning fund balance is higher than what we anticipated at the adopted budget, which means that our stability reserve is higher than what we anticipated at the end of the adopted budget time period, bringing our total fund balance reserve to about 44%, and that required instability reserve ratio to about 26%. All of these numbers, or at least the beginning fund balance and those ratios, will change as we finish up our audit and have the actual audited figures for you when we do our second quarter update. In our restricted funds, for our federal restricted funds, not much changes, a little bit of change as we get new allocations and we look at some future committed funds. Not much different from our adopted budget as well. On all of our fund balance, you'll see we're giving you now a fund balance composition so you can see where those funds are actually committed to. So the $19,000 that's in the ending fund balance for our federal funds is for our Veterans Resource Center that they have. And that, again, is estimated at the end of this fiscal year. My state fund, there we go. So this is page 1 of the state funds. There's a lot of different state categorical funds. Overall, we actually have an increase in funding in on our state categorical funds. If I go to the end of the second page where we have that, majority of those increases are for common course numbering, to give us additional funding from the state to be able to go through that process. And then we also got some one-time funds for the AA and HPI program in order to enable us to help that group of students as well.
Susan, can you elaborate on what that?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that.
It's Asian American,
American.
Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander.
Thank you. LAEP. Go ahead, David. I know you're.
I think that's our local educational agencies. I can't remember what
Yes.
it exactly stands for.
Local, yeah, it's that's what LEA stands for, and then P for program. I can get you more information. Oh, look at you. Lots of acronyms that we use. And I am the worst one when I am put on the spot for acronyms to be able to remember exactly what they are. So thank you for indulging us up here.
I was going to ask afterwards, but since we're going down the acronym route.
And if there's any on here that you would like me to spell out for the future, you can let Superintendent President Butler know, and I can make sure that they're spelled out in the future so that we don't have that confusion. That one I know. That's our foster program. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Absolutely. And what I can have Dr. Butler send out to you if it'll help is that the chancellor's office puts out a compendium of all of our categorical funding, and it gives a more breadth of information about it. We can send that out so that you can look at individual ones if you're interested in that, or if you have ones that just individual ones that you want more information on, let her know, and I can definitely provide him more information specifically. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. And then local funds, not too much difference between adopted budget and first quarter update. A little as we finished out the year and closed out prior year local sources decreased. We put those, but our projected future awards increased. And then we have a breakdown of what those are as well. On this one, both the CARM grant and the Nimble grant are both for our biotech manufacturing. The CARM is actually for student interns that we do. And then again, we did the fund balance composition, so estimated amount what they would have at the end of the fiscal year. I did do a summary outlook on our other funds. What our adjusted beginning fund balance was at the end of the last fiscal year, what our projected revenues are, our projected expenses, and what we anticipate those ending fund balances are at the end of this fiscal year. And then the last page is our report that we send to the chancellor's office, showing that tying out from the report that I'm giving you and what we are actually reporting to the state. One thing that I put on the notes that we haven't had before, I'm gonna unshare that, is the 50% law calculation. The 50% law states that in our general fund, our unrestricted fund, 50% of our expenses have to go towards the instructional side of the house in the classroom and supporting students in the classroom. It's something that we calculate for our audit every year. At the end of the year, we want to be a little more transparent with it as we move forward throughout the year and not just wait for it at the end. And so we're presenting that on each quarterly budget update as well. For the first quarter, if we're looking at expenses only, that means money that we've actually written the check for. Our 50% law calculation is at 47.68%, which is under that 50%. However, if we project it forward for the end of the fiscal year, meaning that there's purchase orders in place, we haven't received the items, check hasn't actually been cut. If we project those forward, we're actually at 51.41%. So these are the things that we will continue to monitor as we go throughout the year, and that I'll present to you as well so that you can see where we're at. Any other questions other than acronyms?
I know that the stability reserve right now is coming in higher than anticipated, and we were trying to keep that reserve from getting too high again. Do we have thoughts as to what to do if it keeps maintaining, if it seems to keep at the 26%?
So, for right now, I would recommend that we don't do anything. And I say that not knowing what the state budget's going to look like for next year. I also want to get our audit finalized and see where that beginning fund balance, where it actually starts, so that we have a more accurate figure, and then we have those more accurate ratios. I think once the January proposal comes out from the governor's office, we'll have a little bit more information as far as what next year's budget's going to look like, and then we can start making those decisions on what we want to do. We're also looking, our Finance Advisory Committee, at our next meeting, we'll be looking at both the OPEB reserve that we have in the general fund and the STRS and PERS reserve, to start having the conversations and what they would recommend on how we move forward with those funds, if we want to keep them in the general fund, knowing that there may be legislation coming in the future that limits that, or if we want to invest that and protect that a little bit more. So we're going to start having those conversations as a group, so that we can make better recommendations to you as a board on that aspect as well.
Perfect. That's what I was hoping.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have an announcement. So this last Saturday, I was able to attend with my husband, who's a 10-year Marine veteran, excuse me, at the, from the Charles Bud Hallam Detachment. They hosted the 249th Marine Corps Birthday Ball, and I just wanted to give a thank you. One of the eldest Marines actually attended our Veterans Barbecue, and his name is Jesse Branch. So I just wanted to give a thank you, because it was very sentimental. It had been a long time since I'd been to a Marine Corps ball, so I just wanted to thank Juan Demarius, the Greg Artel Jr. I'm having to read off of a book because it's 5 names. Major General Christopher Cortez, EMCE Nick Menendez, I think that's how you say his name. Detachment Adjutant Anthony Perez, and of course the Color Guard Battalion 453 out of San Jose. And I really recommend that if you have the opportunity, go next year. They do fundraise, the Solano County Marine Corps League, and it goes for our youth, and it goes for our community and our veterans. So I just wanted to say thank you, and hopefully I didn't mess up people's names too bad.
Thank you. Any other announcements? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is items from the board. Are there any items from the board? No, then we'll move on to the motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn this meeting.
So it's moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Aye, opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.